Let's see how to use a percentage of heart rate max in order to prescribe exercise using heart rate. Let's start with a question here that can help us frame exactly what it is we're trying to do. So we have Andrew, who is 34 years old. He has a heart rate monitor he plans to wear during treadmill exercise, and he wants to exercise at a vigorous intensity, but he's not sure what heart rate counts as a vigorous intensity for him. All right, so let's go ahead and look at what we have to work with. So our given variables, which isn't much, is that we have a 34-year-old who wants to do vigorous intensity exercise assessed by heart rate. All right, so ideally we would have a measured maximal heart rate. So we'd have to do a maximal test where we measure heart rate all the way throughout the test. In that moment where they can't go any further, whatever the heart rate is there, that is their maximal heart rate. But in most cases, you're not going to have that. So an estimated heart rate max is what we're going to be working with here, because that's, again, typically what you're going to have. All right, so there are several calculations out there on how to do heart rate max estimations. We're going to stick with probably the simplest and most common one, which is estimated heart rate max equals 220 minus your age. All right, so in this case, our client is 34 years old, so let's plug that in. So 220 minus 34 gives us 186 beats per minute as his estimated maximum heart rate. All right, so we now need to determine what the vigorous exercise intensity range is when using a percentage of maximum heart rate. All right, so I have a table over here that we're going to look at together. This is information coming from the American College of Sports Medicine, so the ACSM, and we have the various different categories of exercise intensity or cardiorespiratory exercise intensity, and what percentage of heart rate max is associated with that. So less than 57% would be very light, 57 to 63 would be light, 64 to 76% moderate. Where we want to be vigorous is 77 to 95%, and then above that would be near max or maximal exercise. All right, so again, we're going to be going off of 77 to 95% because that is associated with vigorous intensity exercise. All right, so back to our calculations here. So let's do the lower and upper range of what would be considered vigorous intensity for this individual. So the lower part of that range, the 77%, would be calculated by doing 186 beats per minute, which is his age estimated maximum heart rate, multiplied by 0.77, which is the decimal format for 77%. Make sure you convert the decimal. And then that gives us 143.22 beats per minute, which you would just round probably to 143. So the lowest exercise intensity he can work at and be considered working at a vigorous intensity is 143 beats per minute. Now let's do the upper end of vigorous intensity. So that was 95% of maximal heart rates. So 186, multiply that by 0.95 for the 95%, gives us 176.7 beats per minute, which again, you'd probably just round to 178. So the vigorous intensity range for this person based on a percentage of maximal heart rate is 143 to 178 beats per minute. In reality, you probably want to give him a smaller range to sort of shoot for, and most likely if he's doing continuous aerobic type exercise or cardiorespiratory exercise, you'd probably want to start at the lower end of that range, if not always kind of be at the lower end of that range, because vigorous intensity is hard even at the low end of vigorous intensity. So maybe 145, tell him to stay within about 5 beats for that would probably be a fairly appropriate range to give him. This was how to estimate exercise intensity based on percentage of heart rate max. This isn't the best way to do it though. What you really prefer to do is to use heart rate reserve rather than a straight percentage of heart rate max. So I've already done a video on how to do that, so I'll go ahead and put a link to that in the description below. I'll also put a link in the description below for a video showing additional age estimates of maximal heart rate beyond just the easy 220 minus your age. I've done a video showing several different calculations on that as well.